All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this great conversation that we're going to have today. Today is September 30th. It is the last day of the third quarter. And this is also the day after a big presidential debate where we are today coming in to talk about real talk. We're going to have real talk about real pathways out of multi-generational poverty. My name is Andre Dickens. I'll serve as the moderator for this discussion. I am the Vice President of Development for TechBridge and also a member of the Atlanta City Council. Today, we're going to have a fantastic discussion. This is the type of discussion that we all have with ourselves or we have with our friends and family. But today, we're going to have this discussion with two of the leaders that are transforming people, taking people's lives from survival to success. We are trying to have a conversation today about moving people out of poverty and making sure that we have clear pathways out of poverty. Two dynamic leaders today. These are two of my friends, two of my mentors, two people that I work with and work for, folks that I just have a great affinity for. And I think that you already know them. And if you have not met them before, this introduction is going to be a good one where you're going to get to know some fantastic people that are in the fight, but also making progress. They've made progress in their own lives. They've earned this right. They've earned a great pathway to where they are now, and they have brought so many people along the way. And they are going to share these things with you. So now I'm going to introduce you to the panelists for this morning. So first, we have Nicole Armstrong, who is the CEO of TechBridge. First, I want to hear from you, Nicole, and then we'll go to John. So Nicole, introduce yourself.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. As Andre mentioned, I am the CEO of TechBridge. And for those who don't know, TechBridge is a nonprofit that focuses on breaking the cycle of innovation, breaking the cycle of poverty through the innovative use of technology. A little bit about my background. Before joining TechBridge, I spent just under 2 decades as a K-12 education technology leader in roles ranging from senior vice president at Pearson Education. At the time, Pearson Education was the largest education company in the world, to a CEO and co-founder of a K-12 company called Noodle Markets. And I thought that was important to share because I've had the privilege of literally and figuratively sitting in the classroom of the nation's poorest school districts. And that'll be relevant in the conversation that we have today. I also, just a little bit about my education background. I have a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering and MBA with a concentration in finance. And I'm thrilled to be here with John Hope Bryant and with Andre to have this really, really important conversation. Thanks, Andre.
Great. Thank you, Nicole, for giving us just a brief part of your bio, just telling a little bit about yourself. You are a phenomenal woman and just great to work with you, and just really looking forward to having this conversation. All right, next, I'm going to have John Hope Bryant, the founder and CEO of Operation Hope. Hey, John, good to see you again. Tell us about yourself.
My pleasure. First of all, I just want to commend you too. I was sitting here thinking about where we are and the fact that we're sitting in a moment in history in this country. And history doesn't feel historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. And I'll introduce myself in a minute. I think it's more important to give context for you two. I'm thinking about how proud Dr. King would be, and Coretta Scott King, who was his supporter, without which none of what his accomplishments would have been done. Behind every successful man is an exhausted woman, typically. But you think about, hopefully we get into what I call the third Reconstruction, but you think about what he fought for, and you've got the second Reconstruction in Andre. Andre is a member of the city council, and he is making public policy. One piece of which they did was to create a gateway for the middle class and wealth creation that happens at the airport to continue through the end of the year without having folks' business explode and implode. We'll get into that responsible public policy that is an investment, not a cost. But if Andre wasn't there would not be a voice, and there would not be a bridge, a tech bridge, to this conversation. So Andre is sitting in a moment in history and doing his job. And Nicole, likewise, is part of what I call the third reconstruction, which is going on right now. And I love that she has a degree, interest not only in technology, but in finance and in business and civic engagement. And as a woman is a role model for the only group of people on this planet that are responsible for our reproduction. Because men can't reproduce, only women can do that. But she's not only a mother of family, she's a mother of invention and innovation and business formation. So I'm just proud of what you guys have done and what you're doing and how you're doing it. I'm John Hope Bryant. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm up from nothing. My new book, which comes out October 6th, and I grew up in Compton, California, in South Central Los Angeles, and I was homeless for 6 months of my life. Lived in my Jeep at Lochte Heron Airport in South Central LA. Lived in my Jeep. Saw death 3 times before I was 10 years old. This is not a fable. This is not a story. This is my life. And I was really built by failure, really. And today, people say that success is 1,000 mothers and failure is a bastard child. No one thinks about the things that didn't work in my life. And that's why I want people watching this to be encouraged on whatever they're doing that's not working and to keep at it. Because success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. But I tried 100 things before I was 20, from age 10 to 20. Most of them didn't work. Today, I run the things that emerged, 2 of the largest companies in its kind for a Black person in the country. I run the largest nonprofit financial inclusion organization in America, which is Operation Hope, part of the conversation of today, which is, I think, number 34, 35 on the Atlanta top 1 nonprofit list for the Atlanta Business Chronicle. And it's the largest in the entity in the country in 25 states. And then we call it the Starbucks of financial inclusion. And then we have the Promise Homes Company on my commercial side of my life through my private equity firm, Bryant Group Ventures. And that's the largest minority controlled owner of single family rental homes in America. And that company was nothing 3 years ago. It's now the largest in the country with $100 million worth of assets, 110. Most of which are here in Atlanta and in Florida. And if just that company was on the Black Enterprise list, I think we just submitted it, it'd be number 95 on the list. We created a company that's the top 100 Black business in the country here in Atlanta in 3 years. What can we do? What can you do is the point. And how do you do it? How do we chart the path forward?
Whew. I mean, to be in the room, as they say, to just be in the same room as these two, you guys are now in the room with us in this virtual conversation that we're having. I hope that you tune in, lean forward, and listen to this conversation that we're going to have from these great dynamic leaders of industry, nonprofit, finance, and technology. Last night today I mentioned that last night we had a debate, if you can call it that. And we're going to be adults in this room. We're not going to be taking jabs at each other. We're going to uplift the people. But we are going to talk about something that I don't think that they were able to dive deep into last night, which is poverty. So I'm going to, set the table that we're going to serve from today. We're going to have these words that you're going to hear often that are sometimes, it used to be trigger words. People didn't want to hear that America had poverty, that America has inequity, that we have unemployment, that we have government assistance and welfare and income inequality and income immobility, the inability to move from where your income is. These are real words that the three of us talk through and talk about each and every day. And how do we move those things out of our way? Are these real? Some may say these are not real. Are these real? And what are your thoughts on where we are in America at this time? I'll give it to you first, Nicole. Are these things real? Is poverty real? And where we are in America, what are your thoughts?
Poverty, income immobility, and racial inequity are as real as it gets. And I would say that personally, I feel like it has been the elephant in the room for centuries. And it's not new. But here's the most interesting thing is that, and many of you know these facts, is that today 30 million Americans live in poverty, with about 7% are in deep poverty. And deep poverty is described as having income below $9,000. 7 million of the 30 million that have no income at all. And what's really disheartening is that here in Atlanta, many of you have probably seen the report that Atlanta ranked #1 in the nation in terms of income disparity, with just 2% of white households in Atlanta living below the poverty line compared to 29% of Black households. And that's according to the American Community Survey. So here is the facts, right? Poverty and income immobility is real. And what's interesting is that many of you probably recall that President Ronald Reagan used to be fond of saying that we fought a war against poverty and poverty won. And my question, the real question is, why did it win? And why is poverty winning? And why is it okay? It's not okay. And I'd be interested in hearing John's perspective. I have a lot more to say about this, but the fight on poverty should not be winning, and it is. And there's a lot of reasons why, but I'm going to pause there.
All right, John, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. Ronald Reagan and I were born on the same day, but and I admire his optimism, but he was wrong on that. And a large part of the reason we have this homeless issue and the crime that comes from that problem is because they defunded mental health during his administration, which was a bad policy make. We didn't lose the war on poverty. We were never fighting a war in the first place.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the future. I mean, the past, and give a history lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I do think history has some context to where we are. You don't know where you came from, then you don't know where you're going. You don't know how you got here. So I'm going to say that in a minute. But let me make the drop the mic statement that relates to you two. You cannot be a growth anything today. Growth company, growth church, or church, as they used to say growing up, the church. You can't be a growth nonprofit. You can't be a growth daycare center. You can't be a growth barbershop. You can't be a growth anything today unless you're using technology.
That's right.
Period. Full stop. If you want to be a growth company, you want to be a growth individual, you got to be using technology. And I don't mean using this as if it's a dumb phone. I mean using it as a smartphone. If all you're using this for is entertainment and videos, then you're using it as a dumb phone. This is a computer in your hand. What are you doing to have it either create income for you or create wealth or create opportunity, at the very least make yourself smarter? I mean, we've got the internet. I had the dictionary growing up, okay? You had to go look up a word and it gave you no context. You can literally speak something into the computer now and ask it a plain question and it'll give you the answer. There's no excuse for being dumb today. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. It should be illegal to be dumb in 2020. It should be illegal because you've got a level playing field of information. Now, let me back up and just give some context of why we got here, and I'll do it in 2 minutes. 400 years in 2 minutes. Income inequality. For 246 years, America defaulted on its own investment agreement. The agreement is if you work hard and play by the rules, you get the benefit of this, your labor. That's the rule. But for 246 years, we worked on someone else's plantation, and they got the benefit of our labor. Literally, we worked harder and their house got bigger. And that was called a reverse transfer of wealth. It's the largest in world history. And we couldn't create capital from our labor if we had gotten money. We couldn't even rent ourselves out. We couldn't create capital because we were capital. Right. We were traded, invested, insured, financed. In fact, we were more valuable than real estate because you could actually have a bad crop and have a crappy year on real estate. But if you could actually trade your slaves, you could actually sell a slave to another region. It was the economy. The largest economy in the world was the U.S. It was built on slave labor and slave economy, cotton. The richest city in the world was not just Mississippi, and the richest city per capita in the world, not just Mississippi. I break all this down in my new book. I go into great detail. And the word millionaire came from 1850, when the cotton trade was 2/3 of our U.S. economy. So you figure the rest out. So it's like playing Monopoly. You start 300 years later, and the other guy or lady has 5 times more pieces on the board than you do, and you're starting 40 years later, and they say go, and all you want to do is go to jail on the Monopoly board because you're tired of getting beat up by folks who've got an unfair advantage. Now, you can't blame your neighbor getting wealthier. I said this on TV this morning. You blaming your neighbor doesn't make you any wealthier. So we need to not complain ourselves out of this problem. Anger is not a strategy. Okay. So, and after the Civil War, there was a Freedmen's Bank. I'm not going to take you to the history, but that was a bank chartered to teach us about money, and then Lincoln was killed. And you can research that. I've done a lot on the Freedmen's Bank online. Andre, Nicole, there was never a reconciliation like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, the Gachacha courts in Rwanda, where folks said, I screwed up. I'm a Confederate soldier. I'm sorry. And here is my debt paid. And we move on. The Confederate Army took their guns, went home, and became sheriffs and the Klan at night. And we never got the land. We never got the opportunity to reset ourselves. So we were free. But what did that mean? So the first Reconstruction was really, I'm free. I'm free. What did I get? What did I get? Got poverty and another 100 years of Jim Crow. So freedom, firstly, was civil liberties. That was first Reconstruction. Second Reconstruction was civil rights and economic empowerment, which is what, Andre, you're delivering on in your generation. And I believe we're on the tail end of that. It was political empowerment and the right to vote. And now the third Reconstruction, I believe, is economic empowerment in a digital world.
Yes. Yes.
So we weren't even fighting. We didn't have there was no battle plan. There was no general field. This wasn't an experiment that worked and we tried, didn't work. We just never got the memo. That's my last book. Black folks never got the memo on free enterprise, capitalism, economics, and opportunity. So it's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us what we think we know. Last fact, 96% of all Black businesses today have no employees.
Right.
None. They're self-employment projects. So I commend Nicole just for creating a job. Okay. She is American royalty, really. I mean, we don't have royal class in America like we have in Europe. It's businesses. We wanted royalty, so we created celebrity just so we have somebody to talk about. But I'm serious. We created our American royalty. It was an American creation, celebrity. But really the royal class, Nicole, it's the business owner.
Right.
That's where, so I'll stop. But you see how complicated and simple this is? It's complicated because we don't talk about it in the right ways.
Right.
It's not robust. We need to be as expert in civil rights in the suites as we are in civil rights in the streets.
Right. And I think, John, you actually, you both have just set the stage related to poverty and how we got here and how this is a real thing in America, because everybody didn't know how we got here and everybody doesn't always see it as being very real. They say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They say, I made it while you can't make it. They say, that happened a million years ago, or that wasn't my fight. Here we are today. And I think that you both have set the stage on something that people can understand, that this conversation is about pathways out of multi-generational poverty. This is not just poverty from, I tried something, I had a bad summer and now I'm, blew all my money and I'm now impoverished. No, this is systematic. And in order to overcome this system, you need a new system. And this system that I think we're going to be talking about today is why we say it's pathways out. There are pathways out. Yeah, you can throw a ball, you can sing real well, and that's a limited set of pathways out. But there are some predictable pathways out of poverty. And I want to shift to you, Nicole, when I ask about let's think about some of the people that we've been in touch with, the people that we've helped, or the nonprofits that we serve that go out there and are on the front lines of trying to help folks. Let's say there's a 40-year-old woman, and she's working at a $10 an hour job with 2 to 3 kids. And what are some of the issues that this family may be facing, and how do you see a pathway out? We see this is a common thread in Atlanta. You have thousands and thousands of people that are in this scenario. You have 2 to 3 kids. It's a single mom. You're working a job that's pretty much $10 an hour, limited benefits. What kind of pathways can you see for this woman, and what are some of the things that TechBridge and others are doing?
Yeah, so I'll talk about probably the most obvious, which is that at $10 an hour with 2 to 3 kids, and let's call her Sarah. Sarah is right at the poverty line with 20,000, making about 20,000 a year. So that's an important thing to note. Some of the things that she's probably most likely struggling with is certainly food insecurity and figuring out how she's able to put food on the table for her kids. She's also, if she were in retail or if she were in the food industry or hospitality as a result of the pandemic, she might actually not be going to work for $10 an hour because she's probably more than likely unemployed and gotten hit by the economic downturn from COVID-19. So because of that, she could quite possibly be thinking about not only how to feed her kids, but how to keep her apartment. Evictions are on the rise, and she's probably thinking that if I get evicted, I might be homeless. And so I'll kind of put those two pieces on those two areas on the side. But I want to kind of go back to what John said, which is the biggest thing that is going to be an issue for Sarah as she looks to re-enter the workforce, which is tech skills. Now, and I want to discern that from the work that TechBridge does in our technology career program, because what's happening, this shift in terms of entering into the workforce is requiring Sarah to have really, really basic skills. And I think what's happening, kind of going back to what John was saying, was that we should not confuse that with Sarah having a cell phone and being able to go to Facebook or play Candy Crush. Right? There are some basic things that in order for her to re-enter into the workforce that she needs to understand to do in terms of navigating the internet and the digital economy. And that is one of the things that I think we're missing. That's going to be really important in terms of creating these pathways. The other thing that Sarah is dealing with 2 kids at home is schooling. Right? The world K-12 is turned upside down, and it's never going to be the same again. And kind of, I think the K-12 education system got caught not being prepared. And I can say that having spent just under 2 decades selling digital technology to large school districts, only to have them tell me, we're not ready, Nicole, which is really unfortunate and actually not something to laugh at, because what's happening now is that Sarah's kids are kind of I call it the COVID slide, where in the summertime when kids were out of school, we used to call it the summer slide because they didn't have access to, they kind of lose, they didn't retain what they learned the previous year because of the time they had off. Well, now if we think about the fact that we're 8 months in and at least 1/3, and maybe it's 1/4 right now if we're lucky, but at the time, at the beginning of COVID, it was 1/3 of low income kids were not actually logging into school. So if we think about what kind of some of the things that tie into poverty, and number one being access to education is a pathway out. Now we are creating huge gaps and a huge disparity from the schooling standpoint, because Sarah is likely at home trying to either she has no access to internet, or she had 2 laptops, but maybe she had to sell one in order to make sure that she could pay month's rent. And so the two kids are sharing a laptop, and maybe they're logging in and maybe they're not, but it's a mess. And so I'm just kind of setting the stage for the fact that we have a lot of work to do, but part of what can't be lost is the importance of that basic tech skill that Sarah needs, not just to re-enter the workforce now, but just to help her kids get ahead. So I'll pause here and certainly would love to hear John's reactions to that.
Yeah, John, what do you think about Sarah and her in this case that we're talking about?
Look, I think that we've got to be bold and audacious here. Financial literacy and internet access should be civil rights.
Yes.
Every city, if you can't get the federal government to do it, you need a financial literacy bond. You need an internet bond. All right? Because without those two things, your city is going to flounder. GDP will crater because society's crater not from the top down, but the bottom in. And you cannot have all this pressure at the bottom that's not have no capacity to create GDP at the top. You need cities, counties, states, and to do their own bonds if they have to. You do a transportation bond. I know you're on you had the transportation committee. We should do a financial literacy bond. We should do a tech bond, and to give everybody internet access. Quality, not the homeboy shopping network internet access, quality internet access so that, look, the world has, I got 14 things to say at one time. The world has changed, people. It took 10 or 15 years to get 15% of e-shopping, e-commerce penetration. They went from 15% in 15 years to 25% in 8 months.
That's right.
Of e-commerce penetration. The world has changed. It's not going back.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not going back. Yes, we want brick and mortar. Yes, there'll be still a chance for you to go to a mall. Yes, we want to love and talk to each other and all that stuff. But people are going to shop from their phone. Mm-hmm. People are going to learn from their computer. The world has changed. And to quote Dr. King, unless we want to be watch the world move at rocket ship space, and we have a horse and buggy agenda, we gotta get on with this. It's time for chop. We need to upgrade all of our software. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. It is time for us all to upgrade our software, or we're going to be left behind. The world has fundamentally, permanently changed. There's something else I like about Nicole. Nicole has a degree in finance. First of all, she has a degree. You're going to make twice as much money and build twice as much wealth with a college degree of any kind than a high school education. So she has a degree in finance and an expertise in technology. What did China do? Now, I don't like China's model because I think they cheat. I don't think they cheat. I know they cheat because government endorsed cheating. But they got our capitalist model. They educated their children here, went back, and now they're cheating against us and stealing our technology. But God don't like money, so it's okay. We'll solve that because we're America. But what China did right, they told their people, don't steal America's education, get America's education and steal their tech. Come back, and I want this army, because they're at war with us, I want this army, listen now, to focus on commerce and the sciences, business and the sciences, technology, engineering, math, automation, AI, artificial intelligence, it ain't coming, folks. I say ain't on purpose, is here.
Right.
The jobs for the person doing the counter job, I don't want none of that stuff. I'm just going to work at Burger King. And that job is gone bye-bye in 5 years because they don't want your attitude. They don't want you coming in because you had a bad night spitting on customers and cursing people out. So they're going to put an automated system in place. They're going to move 12 people down to 4. And because they want quality control, it's going to be a computer. You're going to push a button to take look, think about people watching this. You're already doing it. You're going in, you're pushing a button. I want some fries, I want this, I want that. And then you have somebody doing quality control, make sure the computer don't fail in the back. This has already begun. So black folks, poor white people, because we're all in the same boat, underserved, Latino, all right? I don't know why poor people screaming at poor people. I can't figure that out.
All in the same boat.
All in the same boat. Jesse Jackson once said, Reverend Jackson once said, one hobo said, hey man, I'm upset with this here train. I'm gonna buy this here train. The other hobo said, yeah, I'm upset too. They kicked me off too. I'm gonna sell it to you. Both of them so broke they can't pay attention. Neither one of them own anything, but they both talking mess about the train and what they're gonna do. We have got to stop screaming at and howling at the wind here. We need a plan, and we need to be obsessed. Everybody watching this, you don't need your mayor, your governor, your city councilman. Andre's doing this part. You don't need the president. You're the president of your block. You're the president of your house, right? You need to start an internet club. You need to start an e-commerce business. You need to figure out how to bring payment systems into your company, your church. You need to figure out how to properly educate your children at home. You need to figure out how to Zoom health and wellness at home. You've got to significantly, radically upgrade your game plan, and all of us have to attack this issue of social injustice through the windows of technology and commerce at scale.
Yeah.
Next decade.
That's right.
And to add to that, I think what's important for the viewers to understand in terms of what John is saying is that the pandemic has forced it. It was already happening, right? So we think about the reason why a Burger King might go to automation. Originally, pre-pandemic, it might be for economies of scale and to save money. But today, it is because they're thinking about the fact that they have an exposure by putting people in front of other people. Now, say again?
Legal exposure.
A legal exposure, right? So for those who are watching, for the consumer, to what John is saying is that we can't rely on the retail business being the main course of how you're going to feed your family. You have to begin to think about, how am I innovating? How am I self-innovating? And how am I getting on this exponential growth that's happening in the U.S. and that's really critical. So I'll pause there because I know you.
So Andre, can I piggyback on that?
Yeah, sure.
This is because you mentioned it, Andre. This is everything. What she just said is, and what you said, it was either last night or this morning, is everything. What are Black people succeeding? We've succeeded in the arts. You said this certainly last night. Professional sports. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the two things: the rules are published and the playing field is level. Number two, there are cultivation machinery in place to find that little girl who can sing her tail off in church at 11 years old, and they work with her all the way into that R&B contract, or now hip hop contract. But more importantly, more structurally, the professional sports will find that little kid, boo-boo, in Ooey, Mississippi, not because they're academically excellent, but because they can bounce a ball, hit a ball with a bat, or throw it. And they will farm club that person all the way up through high school and the pros to give them a contract. Great. Hey, that's about $65 billion economic activity in an economy of 20 trillion.
Wow. It's still a drop in the bucket.
You're loving all the wrong places. None of that's scalable, Andre. Nicole, right. None of that can provide jobs for 40 million people. I love that. I love my brother T.I. It's my boy. But I can't scale T.I. I can't scale LeBron. The very fact that we can name these people is a problem. Okay? You can only scale industries that provide broad-based economic activity. We have got to get people to make smart sexy again. We've been making dumb sexy for too dang on long. We've dumbed down and celebrated it. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so much in that last question, so much in that last segment. One thing came to mind way early. We were talking about how you can ask your phone these questions, and your phone will give you these answers now. I call that. Yeah, you can just ask the question to Siri or whoever, and I don't even want to say her name because she starts talking back like, "Huh, what you say?" But you can do that. But the challenge is you become an infolectual instead of an intellectual. You can get the info. You can get the info real quick. What time when was the Declaration of Independence, or tell me about what redlining was. You can read that and hear that, but you still won't have the intelligentsia that goes along with that unless you apply yourself. And so I'm interested to hear more from you guys about pathways, because you are right, John Hope Bryant. We can't scale LeBron. We can't scale T.I. And if that's what, all the kids that we work with on the west side and on the south side, if I can tell you every single time we're trying to teach them how to code, half of them are saying, they got an ear open trying to listen to the music, or they're hearing the bouncing ball, because the allure of that is so real to them. And God bless them if they do have that talent to go that way. Don't want to stifle that, but at the same time, we know less than 1% are going to make it to that final destination where they can feed their family consistently by dribbling the ball or rapping. So I think that we got to talk more about the pathways. And John, I want you to talk first about, because Nicole, we're going to talk about how technology and how we can train people to get high demand skills so that they can get a high demand job. But first, I want to hear from you, John, because we've talked a lot about generational poverty. And if going back to that Sarah case where she's only making $10 an hour working at Burger King, and this job is about to be automated, unfortunately, her whole neighborhood has people making $10 and $12 and maybe $13 an hour. So you end up having the entire half of a zip code. Maybe this zip code has a pre-existing condition, and it may even have a health-wise pre-existing condition legitimately, but we know it has a financial pre-existing condition. So how can we get out of your zip code determining your destiny? How can we say that no longer where you were born is where you're destined to live and just scrape by? You talk about a 500 credit score neighborhood. You talk about economy. Please tell us about that more, John.
Man, you need a series on this, not one segment. I mean, this is everything. Everybody needs to start a coding academy. Everybody named Mama, Boo Boo, Che Che, Choo Choo, Cousin JJ. Everybody needs to start a coding academy on their block. This is serious. This is serious talk here, because Ambassador Andrew Young would say, all of our mentor, my play father, Dr. King's last remaining lieutenant alive, that to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery. And to the point you just made, Andre, that 100% of the in-place shootings of Black people with police have been in 500 credit score neighborhoods.
500 credit score neighborhoods.
100% of and I say in place, in neighborhoods. So if you're on the freeway somewhere, whatever, that's a different thing. But if it was an in place, you were in your hood, which is 98% of these, they were in 500 credit score neighborhoods. That stuff's not happening outside of my door. That stuff's not happening in 700 credit score neighborhoods. Your zip code is your destiny. And what is the economic vibrations, the economic energy of your zip code? Is it illegal activity? Is it underground economics? Or is it the economies of the past, working with your hands, or economies of the future, working with your head? We got to solve this problem from the neck up. And the future is what Nicole and you are talking about at scale. So she's got this young lady has got, Steve Jobs was on his way to being adopted by a rich family, and they rejected him. And he was a Syrian immigrant. People don't know this. And the second family that took him in was a middle-class family in the Silicon Valley called the Jobs family. And the Jobs family was an engineering family, technology. And the Jobs family had a friend around the corner, which was the Wozniak family. Hello. Steve and Wozniak got together in the garage. Why can't we do this? We have brilliance. And they created this little thing that most people are watching this with, which is an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, changed the dang old world. and Steve Jobs wasn't even a nice guy. And he changed the world, and he did it without firing a shot. And that technology in that garage in Silicon Valley was zip code more than it was brilliance. That was culture much more than it was intelligence. Because Steve Jobs wasn't even a great coder. That was Wozniak. He was a great marketer. What do we do well? We market. What do we do well? We sell.
Right.
We're not even selling the stuff that we produce. We don't even sell hair weaves. We keep those folks in business. Somebody else brings that into our neighborhood. Look,
amen to that.
Technology. Where is that? People all want to be a rap star. What do you think's driving the rapping? You used to go in a studio. Now you can do it with your iPad, your Mac. That's technology. Well, you can put a whole album on this. You can now stream off. It's technology. How do you think LeBron is so great? He's great, but why is LeBron performing twice as good as somebody of his same talents of 10 years ago? He's got better shoes. There's better analysis of his body. He's got computer enhanced training. He's got data coming back to him in real time. That's technology. It's all around us. Yeah. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. This is like this. I mean, I know Stevie. He wouldn't mind me saying this. This is so obvious, Stevie. Well, my friend Stevie Wonder can see it. But we're not seeing it, and our zip codes are becoming our destiny. And if you hang around 9 broke people, here's what I guarantee you: you'll become the 10th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to John's point, Andre, we all know that people in households where no one is working is more likely to experience poverty and stay in poverty, right? It's a known fact. So to the point around how do we create pathways, it's actually going back to not just coding academies, because coding academies kind of assumes a certain level or basic level of understanding from a technology standpoint. Where the issue is that our 500 credit score zip codes don't have the basics. And that's something that we can innovate around. We can create an app and put it on everyone's phone, make it free, get support, as John is saying, get bonds, tech bonds, to put this in the 500 credit score zip code neighborhoods, and just get them the basics. Because I think what happens is once they get the basics, that begins to spark the imagination. Once you kind of understand, how do I navigate this digital economy? And how do I do these really basic things? We are a smart people. We haven't invested in, we've invested, and I say this most respectfully, we've invested in food stamps and doing all of the things that kind of keep people right where they are, but we haven't given them the tools that they need to spark imagination. Because once we are able to spark imagination, then they can build that e-commerce store. Then they can imagine a world that doesn't require going to Wendy's, but they can be in their apartments and be the Steve Jobs, figuring out how to solve a problem in an innovative way. But we haven't given those basics in order for them to get there.
Right. And Nicole, this is exactly why we created the technology career program at TechBridge. We saw that, we work with a lot of nonprofits, and they are, like I said, on the front lines of poverty, making sure that we have food security, all around right now. There are great nonprofits and people out there handing out food, feeding people that can't feed themselves due to COVID, due to homelessness, joblessness, etc. And then we also are helping nonprofits that are housing people, whether that's through homeless shelters or helping to build housing and helping to do affordable housing. TechBridge, we provide a lot of the technology for the database supports and the help to make sure that they deliver this food from A to B, that they deliver this this person experiencing homelessness to find a place for them to stay for the night. All of this is via technology now. We help Atlanta Mission go from a person standing outside in the cold for their first introduction to experiencing homelessness to being out there for over an hour or so trying to get in and get screened, to now they can do that on the iPad in 15 minutes and also know, and also tomorrow you can go apply for this. This is where you can get your driver's license. This is where you can get some food, or this is where you can get your medicine, and these people will help you, and have all this background information. So technology is being used to help people, even people that are in the legal system, be able to help those folks find a volunteer lawyer that can help them get their eviction situation removed, or some domestic dispute. So thank God we've been doing that. But at the same time, those people are still in survival mode. They are just getting food for today, or just a box of food for this week. If Mrs. Jones is on your roll for the last 10 years, getting the same box of food on Wednesday morning, I'm happy that you're a church that's doing that, but I'm not happy about Mrs. Jones' life, that she still has to come get a box of food from this same church every single week. And so with that being said, we have to give people pathways out of poverty to move them from survival to some set of stability on to success. And that's why we are training people how to do these great skills that are in high demand. If you Google right now on LinkedIn, Indeed.com, or wherever, and look up Salesforce, or look up ServiceNow, or look up Microsoft databases and Azure, and you will see 300, 400 entry-level jobs in our city. These people are no better than how Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak sat in that garage and figured it out. They didn't get more humanness than that. They didn't get less humanness than them. They didn't get less brain power. I can figure this out if I just have the opportunity. And so when John talks about zip codes being 500 credit score zip codes, and they not having enough people around them talking the language of coding, talking the language of technology, talking the language of wealth and income, mobility and stabilization, then we had to bring it to these communities so that these folks can see there's a pathway out of poverty, and it looks like a $50,000 job in technology, that once you get your foot in the door, now you're looking like you can make $100,000, and you change the trajectory of your whole family. And you're the one going to work. You're the one showing other kids how to code and that. And so, Nicole,
Andre, it's a $50,000 job and a 700 credit score. It's a $50,000 job and a 700 credit score. But let me go. You walk past something I think people need to focus on. You said what you were doing for the mission. Technology, people don't see that, but the reason that the mission can get more grant funding is because they got data. The reason they got data is because of TechBridge.
Right. So
you guys do work for Operation Hope. I said last year, if you're not a technology company, you're not a growth company. I don't care, for-profit, non-profit. So I said we need an app, and I want it quick. I made it my number one priority. People say, "Oh, John, what do you?" John, what are you doing? We're good. No, we're not good. We're about to become the wagon wheel, not the rocket ship. And don't become impressed with yourself, because right at the moment you're on the top of your game. Because if you go far enough to the North Pole, you end up south. So we looked for who was the best in Atlanta. And we found a nonprofit that had a sort of a for-profit mentality. That's TechBridge. And I was honored to hear there was a Black-run, Black-owned firm. And you guys have done a great job building our Hope in Hand app. And that app was done in record time. I think it was done in 2 months. You're now doing a software upgrade of that, which we're going to launch that upgrade within 30 days. And that Hope in Hand app is increasingly hope in your hand. And I converted all of my 156 offices in 25 states to virtual locations in COVID 2 months after you gave me that app. I mean, see how God works? So we're able to move all of our work online and run them all through the app, because now the app, you can do video, text, email, phone, all through making this dumb phone a smartphone, right? And now we're about to launch. Can't announce it yet, but within 30 days we're announce something even larger. And there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this thing that can change the reality for Black folks in America, and my poor white friends too, without technology. I can't scale. I can't have even about a few hundred people. I can't affect the lives of tens of millions of people with a few hundred people without technology. Technology makes you money. Technology builds wealth. Technology makes you smarter. What are the stocks that are booming right now? Technology stocks. All right. What are the jobs that are booming? Atlanta's also a tech hub. Right. Microsoft's coming in here. Google's coming in here. All these folks are quietly coming here buying blocks. For what? They're not buying blocks because they have nothing better to do. They're going to put infrastructure there, and they're going to need engineers. You want to make sure your child doesn't go broke? Give them an engineering degree.
That's right.
Yes.
And there are other ramifications to just the engineering degree and to what Andre is saying, is that people become what they see.
Right.
And so the power of the TCP program isn't just that we proved that you don't need to have a college degree to get a coveted technology certification. What we proved is that in 16 weeks, given the support, that we could help now close to 200 families change their lives, because that young girl or that young boy now believes, because mom and dad have been able to enter into the technology field, that they can too. So that was an important point. The other thing I don't want to lose is the work that what Operation Hope did is what every single nonprofit needs to do. Because right now, if we think about poverty and how the federal government is approaching solving the poverty issue, it's linear. And we live in a dynamic world, and nonprofits are in a unique position to have what I'm calling exponential impact through the use of technology, because now Operation Hope doesn't have to rely on in-person coaches to support. They can support the world.
Right.
They support the world. There is nothing that limits the organization from being exponential in terms of its impact. And so we as nonprofits and as TechBridge is going out and talking to nonprofits, they can close the gap.
Hey, Nicole, this morning I got a call from the COO of one of the how do I say this without saying their name? They're one of the 50 largest companies in North America. The COO called me and said, John, we love what you're doing. Can you go to Australia with us? Can you go to Canada with us? What about, the only way I can do that is technology.
Right.
I can't do it any other way. And luckily now I can now say, yes, I can. And so it's high tech and high touch. It's not people or technology. It's people and technology. I'm going to be in person because our folks believe none of what we hear and half of what we see. Okay. We got a trust problem. So it's in person, but it's also for those where it's convenient and we're not there in your location. It's in your hand. It's hope in your hand. And that was because of the work of TechBridge. And TechBridge is not a Black organization. It's a great organization that happens to be run by people who are Black. That's a difference, right? And you need tech savvy, and you need excellence and proper management in order to run a business that has growth potential.
So time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're talking about things that matter too. You can see the passion, you can see the impact that these two dynamic leaders have had, and how they want to expand on that and scale it even more. We're talking from Atlanta, Georgia, but we're talking about all of America, and even now talking about indeed the rest of the world. And there's been some questions that were asked, and I just now, not being the best moderator, just realized that there were some questions that came in. And so one question was, could you talk a little bit about the social determinants of health and effects of poverty on brain development? I'll spin that so that it's not so specific to brain development, because I don't know if you guys are neurosurgeons or knowledgeable in that area, but I will say, can you all talk about, and John, you've actually talked about this before, how a low credit score neighborhood has a liquor store, a check cashing place, or this or that, and the food that is there is not always the best. So how can you talk a little bit about how health and poverty go hand in hand?
Well, it just so happens Nicole talked about role models. My father-in-law built the 22nd largest Black-owned business in America. I have the 95th largest in the same family. His is Health Resources, and is vertically $250 million a year, vertically integrated health and wellness. And my wife is the founder of the wellness division. So we have financial health and health wealth in the same house. So what we now know, Andre, without question, is that these two things parallel each other. Health and wealth are the same conversation. What did the plantation owner do to Black people? They threw the scraps out the back door of the food they didn't want. We turned that, God bless us, from a negative into a positive. We took grit, we took all that stuff, turned it into grits, hog maws, pig feet, fried chicken, ribs. We call it soul food. But that food was not meant to be eaten for 400 years. We God bless us. We turned a negative into a positive. We insulted the person trying to insult us. But now we're eating this crap every day, not once a month. That's literally giving us obesity, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, clogged arteries, and giving us pre-existing conditions. Listen now, pre-existing conditions that make us susceptible to COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we are dropping like flies, I can't walk down the street without seeing most Black people I see are obese on some level. Why is that? It's because of our diet, right? And if you're doing that and smoking weed, you're slowing your body down and your brain. How do you compete in today's society? And so you gotta be sharp. This world's not you. If you're Black today, you're born on probation. You gotta be twice as smart, twice as intelligent, twice as well dressed, get twice as early, stay up twice as late, and be twice as competitive. You cannot be Black for a living anymore. That day is gone, right? Mm-hmm. So we got to get our health right, our wealth right. We got to get our money right. We got to get our brains right. We got to get our phones right, our technology right. We got to get our lives right. And guess what? We can do it. It's not too late. I turned my health around, my wellness 3 years ago because of my wife. I've lost weight. 75% of all disease lives on inflammation. The inflammation is falling out of my body. I take echinacea, golden seal, turmeric drops every day. I eat fish. I've changed my diet. It's not too late. Of course, these things affect your brain cells. Of course, your environment. If you hang around dumb people, you're going to be a dumber person. If you're dealing in survival mode, as you said, Andre, your whole life, then your brain stems are not firing on the right side of your brain of creativity. You're now the only thing that's firing is survival. You're not creating a patent, which is a monetized idea. You're just trying to figure out how to get home without getting shot.
Right.
Surviving, thriving, and winning. The world's built on winning. That's my new book, Up From Nothing. Winning mentality. Black folks need to get now a winning mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Nicole, you got anything?
I know at the top of the hour.
Everything
that John said. And I will say that it really is not too late. And I'll just give you this example of the fact that I am a technologist, and I am honored and privileged to have a grandmother that is 96 years old. Now, get this. If I walk into the house today, my 96-year-old grandmother that was born in 1920 is using an iPad every day, probably 8 hours a day. She is sharp as a tack. But again, she's using that because her nerdy granddaughter for Christmas bought her an iPad so that she could figure out how to play her games. She's 96. So it's not so if she can do it, anybody can do it. I'll also say that we are at a critical inflection point, what I like to call a forced inflection point, both at a individual and personal level and from a business and nonprofit. To what John is saying, if you are not thinking about how you can use technology to increase your impact and grow exponentially, then you're on a time clock because you will not survive.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that, Nicole. And thank you, John, for being here. Everybody, I'm getting text messages from friends. I'm getting messages in the chat. People are saying that this was a phenomenal conversation. Some folks are saying they didn't know these things. I got some that said, I'm glad y'all are talking about it. This is what I felt like we needed to hear. You think about it. We're in a critical presidential cycle. We are also in a pandemic. We've got all this stuff going on related to civil unrest, related to racial equity and justice. We are in the time of our lives, and leadership is being shown right now in this conversation. None of us are flinching. None of us are falling off. None of us are giving up. None of us are laying down. fact about it, we're turning to each other to say, let's go, let's do it. How can we do more? How can we serve more? How can we serve more people and do more good and benefit more and more people for multi-generational, not for multi-generational poverty, but for multi-generational prosperity to go on into the future and to serve someone else. I hope that everyone got a lot out of this. Thank you, John. Thank you, Nicole. And, if you leave it to me, I'm like Don King. I'm gonna make sure we all get back into the ring again at some point. We're going to have this discussion, a part 2 to come. Thank you all, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.
Peace and light.
Thanks.
God bless.
Bye-bye.